How did they win the contract in the first place for running the Olympics? What's their track record in general?
Their track record is pretty awful. If you look on the internet, on G4S, and just look at the mistakes these people have made. They drove an Aboriginal man, they've got a contract in Australia to transport prisoners. They run prisons. And I think asylum seekers as well. I think they run a few asylum seeker shelters. They had an Aboriginal man in the back of one of their metal prison vans, you know, transporting it.
Is that in Australia?
This is in Australia.
In Australia, yeah.
They went across the desert, and in the report it said the man cooked to death. He died. And where his skin actually touched the metal, he was cooking. It was stuck to the metal. And that's what they did to somebody in Australia. That's one example. In America, a G4S security guard did an armed robbery on his own van. Had got a job with G4S, got onto the cash money transfer thing, and then decide, actually, I'm going to rob it. Because he was an armed bank robber kind of thing. This is what he did. He got a job in there because he knew that their security was so lax he could do it from the inside out, which you can. That's the whole point. So the internet is littered, and the newspapers and mainstream media is littered with G4S. I mean, they've routinely had people, you know, ended up being killed because they've not been suitable for the jobs. A mother told me of her son who basically shot 2 of his G4S colleagues in Iraq, and she even said that her son wasn't mentally fit to work for G4S. He'd been a British soldier, I think he was in 2 para, so he was an elite British soldier who had suffered a post-traumatic stress syndrome from being in theatre of war, and she said he should never have joined G4S, and G4S should never have given him a job. This is the company that's going to end up running the police in this country. You know?
How do you know that?
Because that's general knowledge about G4S. That's what they want. What they're doing is they're collecting up all the contracts they can get hold of. They already run civilian jobs within police stations and stuff like that, and they want to be the security force of the future. Private policing is where this country's going, and that's what they want to do. There's chief constables up and down the country now who are trying to desperately for them not to privatise their police area, but that's happening right now as we speak.
How is the government allowing G4S to have all these contracts when they've got such a poor track record?
It's the government basically wants private corporations running everything. Don't forget, with private corporations aren't accountable to anybody, right? So you can get away with things as a private corporation that you'd never get away with as government because we all vote, right? So never again could somebody say, you know, be roughhoused by G4S. People have died by, you know, them arresting people in other countries, having, you know, doing restraints that are too tight and suffocating people. They've already done that. So imagine them here being the police. All that would happen all the time, and all the government would say is, well, we'll fine them. You know, once they're in doing the job, they're not going to get rid of them. It's very difficult to get rid of people out of these contracts. So they'll say we'll fine them, but that's people dying or being mistreated and they're just getting fined. Government just wants private companies running everything, you know. What
would you say to people that say, well, even the police at present, we have problems with deaths in police custody,
sure,
wrongful arrest, etc.
Yeah.
Somebody might say, so what would be the difference?
They are accountable, the police now, right? It's a bit like, you know, you saying, I don't like the police, right? Wait till these people take over. Right? Yeah, you know, policing in a democracy is supposed to be difficult. It is. There's no getting around that, right? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. That's just the job. Get used to it. We pay them enough to do it so they can take a certain amount of criticism on the chin, but they are ultimately accountable. It may take years to get a case against the police going. They cover up things. They do all sorts of different, you know, scams. They change each other's stories, we've heard recently, and stuff like that. However, they are accountable, and eventually, truth, you know, not always, but 9 times out of 10, has a habit of coming out about the police. You know, look at the case of Stephen Lawrence, right? It's gone on for 20 odd years, and still things are coming out about the police. So in the end, they are accountable.
And also they are supposed to be public servants.
That's right.
That's how they are termed. Whereas presumably that wouldn't be the same term used for private corporations running police servicing.
They're trying to pretend, G4S are, if you listen to them talk when they give their speeches on the internet, they're trying to pretend that they are some sort of public sector, company, like the NHS, G4S, NHS, But they're not. They're a private company. Their sole responsibility is their shareholders. That's all they have to please, right? It's about the bottom line. It's about money. That's it. Nothing else. Does it? It doesn't matter how hard you complain. You could raid their office block and hang out their windows. It doesn't matter. They will not change a thing, right? They're a private company. And that's it. And they'll come out and they'll say, well, we made mistakes. That person got sacked because of the result of it. We've had our own internal investigation and we found ourselves, surprise, surprise, not guilty. It's like the Nazis conducting their own war trials. You wouldn't do it. So, however, we are giving the country to G4S. And it can't be allowed to happen because you won't know what hit you if G4S take over. You really won't. There'll be policemen on the street with G4S logo. They might still look like policemen that we know, but somewhere on their uniform there'll be G4S logo and stuff like that. There'll be all sorts of things happen from day one. And if this is how they do the Olympics, just think how they're going to police the country. How they're going to look after prisoners even. They want to have policing powers. They want to have investigation powers. Just imagine that, if someone dies. Yeah? G4S comes to investigate it. You can't allow this company, they want magistrates' powers to actually be the magistrates. So they can arrest you, drive you to court, then the G4S magistrate is going to go guilty and off to a G4S prison. That's the reality of where we're heading to. And we're heading there now. The Olympics are supposed to be their big flagship show to show the world, here's G4S, we're the biggest or second biggest company in the world. We've got the contract for the Olympics, Well, look, they are the second biggest company in the world. And I just wanted to go in there and just see if they were doing everything properly. Because if our country's being given to them, I want to be confident, I could have come out of this whole situation and say, actually, G4S are great. But I can't say that. They're not. They're really bad.
So, do you know who are the top people in G4S?
Well, my boss... I don't know who the chief executives are or anything like that. Ian Horseman Sewell technically is the managing director of global events. He's my boss because he's the global events guy. I've never met him. We've never seen him. I've only seen him on YouTube. So he's the guy responsible for the Olympic security.
Is he the one that tried to get in without his pass?
I don't know.
Because there was a story recently about somebody trying to get in without their pass and saying, don't you recognise me? I've been on TV and getting quite cross and threatening to sack them.